Scoring! Now, as I see it, in our game, there's only two ways to actually do any scoring of sorts. One will be beating an enemy, so like jumping on his head or shooting it, something like that. The second one will be if you collect an item, like a coin or an egg, in the case I'm hoping to do today. And thirdly, if you get to the end of the level and you've still got time left and the timer counts down and you get points for that. Kind of like a Super Mario, Sonic slash Street Fighter 2 ending then. But like I said, in terms of scoring, we're actually going to concentrate on this tutorial about scoring when you collect an item. So first things first, I'm actually going to bring in a couple of assets which I've got kind of set up and made for this. I'm going to bring in an egg as the items we're going to be collecting. I'm also going to bring in this squawk audio file. I don't think I spelled that right, but anyway, I'll bring it in. And the idea is when you collect an egg, the points will go up by like 100 or so, and that's something we'll come to, and this squawk noise will play as well. Now, you don't actually need to bring an asset in order to actually collect it. You could just simply click on 2D objects, sprites, and then just do a circle and give it a color, or a capsule and give it a color, as you can see there. But because I'm kind of doing this chicken theme thing, it kind of makes sense that I'm going to use something like an egg. Anyway, right, so there's my egg. I'm going to bring it onto the scene, and it's just going to float there at this point. If I press play, it's not actually going to do anything at all. And I'm then just going to add a collider to it. Now we've added colliders to our ground, we've added colliders to our player, and generally I've kind of said use a box collider. Now box collider is perfect for ground because it's a rectangular shape, but in terms of the chicken, I had to kind of maneuver around to kind of get it to the position I wanted it to be. But there are other types of colliders. So an egg, I wouldn't use a box collider on. Now I'm actually going to use a circle collider, and there are these other types of colliders you can use as well. And in fact, there's one in amongst all this, which I think is called a polygon collider, which will actually trace around the shape we've actually got. So it'd actually go completely round our chicken, for example, or completely round our egg. But I've seen something saying that if you use one of those, it does take up a lot of processing power and makes the game run a little bit slower. So just going to keep it simple and do a circle collider. Now you can't see it very well possibly here, but there is a green circle which has now appeared around my egg, and in fact it's actually outside of the shape of the egg. So where the radius is, I'm just going to drag it to the left so it kind of goes within it. And in fact, I've also seen that it's probably better for these colliders to actually make them smaller than your shape. So during gameplay, you actually have to make a proper physical contact with it in order for it to do something. And the only other thing I really need to do here is to tick this is trigger part. Now, that whole point of that is that if I come in contact with this particular collider, this circle collider on the egg, then we can actually activate something within our code. So we can make our egg disappear, we can make a noise play, we can make a score increment by a certain amount of points. Now, before coding, the only thing I really need to do is, it doesn't matter what I click on at this point, but whatever I click on, you can see that we've got these tags at the top here. Now, the chicken is currently untagged. I don't need it to be tagged to anything, so is our egg. And the ground we've got set as ground. And remember in a previous video, we set ground as the tag for this. So there's a bit of code. So when a chicken jumps up, you can only jump again when you land on something which has got the tag ground. So we had a platform which also had the tag ground. So when the chicken landed on the platform, he could then jump again. So in a similar sense, we need to add a tag to our egg. So when the egg becomes something comes in contact with the egg, then that bit of code can be activated in combination with this is triggered tick box here. So where it says tagged, I'm going to add a new tag, and I'm going to call it just simple egg and save it. If I go back and click on the egg again and just make sure if it's got egg on it. On every egg I have on my level, like on Mario you have dozens and dozens of coins, and on Sonic dozens and dozens of rings, we might have dozens and dozens of eggs. So whenever we come into contact with something which is tagged with egg, then a certain bit of code is going to run. So in respect of code, we're actually going to add a bit of code to our player. So basically when it comes in contact with the egg, we want things to happen. So down here, we're going to add a component. We're going to go to new script, and I'm always going to get this bug where I can't actually type anything in. It won't let me type it until I go back to it and actually type something in here, which is really frustrating. I apologize for this. And now we'll let me do it. Stupid thing. And I'm actually going to call this item collector, and I'm going to create an adder. So it'll generate a bit of code for us, like the standard thing here. And if I double click on it, it opens up in Visual Studio. It looks like this. Now, I've got some code I've already got copied here, so I'm just going to copy this part, which I've got highlighted. And just to come back to this part, we don't actually need those top two lines. They can be removed. And in fact, I think, let me just double check. Yeah, I don't need any of these lines of code here at all. I'm just going to paste those in there. Now, basically what this is saying is, on trigger enter 2D, so when we actually kind of collide with something, if that game object is called an egg, which we've got our egg linked as, or tagged as, I should say, up here, then what that does, it actually removes the egg, so it destroys the egg. It's a bit of a strong word, I know. So let's just save that, and let's go back to our egg back to our game. Let's just do this little thing of compiling. Now it's not like something there. This is a stupid error really. So I just need another. So I didn't have enough open and close parentheses for what I had. Just save that. Let's go back and hopefully the red will disappear this time. And all will happen when it actually does what it's supposed to do is when I come in contact with the egg, it will disappear. So let's just run our. I got a little something stuck up the top here, which is a bit annoying. Get across there. Right, so if I press play, if I can press play, if it lets me do it. There we go. So if I press play and the game runs, he says, there we go. Absolutely. All right, so the game is running, my timer is working, I can jump up and down. And when I come in contact with my egg, it disappears. And you'll notice as well over here, it disappears during game time. But when I press stop or play, the egg will still be there. Okay, so it hasn't gone from your game, it's just disappeared. Now, if I actually have two eggs, I'm going to see if this works actually. So Control C, Control V. So I've got egg one and egg there. And I'm just going to move that other egg to the side. Um, and then you can make that go up a little bit higher so the chicken has to jump for it. And what should happen is then when I come in contact with egg and then egg one, they should disappear at certain times. I know it sounds a bit stupid, but it's just the way my brain works. I want to make sure it does what it does. So first egg disappears, second egg disappears. Great. So I could potentially have dozens and dozens of eggs and be getting rid of them as we go along. Right, now the thing is, when my eggs disappear, you might have noticed as I was playing, there is on my canvas, I've got, if I double click on canvas, you can see all, I've got my time which goes down, I've also got score. So my score actually should start off at 0, and then I want it to increment up by 100 points every time I come in contact with an egg. So I just need to go back onto our code. I just need to go and grab some other codes, which I'm going to add to it. So we need to have this line of code in here whenever we're interacting with some text. So that goes here and back on here as well then. This is actually going to go above the code which we've already put in. And I'll explain what that is when we actually get to that stage. So I've centered it down. So we're basically setting the score to 0. We're actually referring to the text which is going to go within our score text box. On our score text box dot text, we're actually going to set to score, which is 0, and it'll change it to a string. Otherwise, it doesn't like to do it for some other reason, or for some reason. So if I just go back and grab that last couple of lines and add those in, go back onto here. So when the egg disappears, it gets destroyed. We're going to increment the score by 100 points. It's going to add 100 to whatever score is, and it starts off as 0, so then it'll be 100. And if it's already at 100 because we've collected the first egg, it will add another 100 to that score every time we collect another egg. And we're also going to set that score text box, which is basically this score bit here, which we're going to come to how to link that up in a moment. We're going to increment that so it says what it says there. Now, if I just press play, nothing will actually happen at this point. Firstly, because I haven't saved this, I need to come back and do that. But we also need to kind of drag something from across here onto our player over on the right hand side when it does this. So if I zoom back down to the main camera, I click on our player, when it lets me. So we've got our player movement script. This is the item collector script, but you'll see score text box, the text box which is referred to within the code, hasn't got anything connected to it. So my score is actually the score label is the orangey color score, just to say where's this score above it. And this score here is the one which we want to increment. So if I just visually show you that, that's the white one there. That's the one which we want to start off at 0 and go 100, 200, etc., etc. So I need to then just go back down to our player and drag across score into this part here. Fingers crossed, if I save that, then it should start to work, he says. Right, so it starts off as 0. My timer's doing what it does. It should start going down. Now, when I come in contact with the egg, it goes up to 100. And when I press jump and get the second one, now I should add another 100 to our score, which is 200. Brilliant. So that bit works. And the only other thing I really want to do to this, and I appreciate the video's going on a little bit, is just to add a sound to it. So when I actually come in contact with an egg, it makes a squawk noise. So all I really need to do at this point, and I'm just thinking what's the best way to do this, is go back onto the code first of all. I'm going to add public, so I'm not copying and pasting this one, see I am learning, audio source, and it doesn't have to be the same spelling as the squawk back on the game, but the idea is I'm just making a reference to it, so I can actually put it within the code here. I think I spelled it differently to actual on there as well, so if I just press play. So what I should do is then it should kind of look for something which we're going to kind of link up to this audio source, and it's going to play it then when we come in contact with it. So if I press S, that should be all the coding done for this part, and all I need to do here when it lets me start to do it is add an empty thingy-majig. Oh, come on. See, most of my videos is watching the hold. Anyway, right, so I'm going to do create empty. I'm going to call it squawk. And again, yeah, I have spelled it differently to that. But it doesn't really matter, because all I'm going to do then is drag and drop squawk to be inside there. And then when I go back to my player, and you'll notice now down here there is this squawk audio source saying there's nothing connected. I just got to drag and drop that across into there. And what should happen when I press play, we know the scoring system works. We know the egg disappears when we come in contact with it or when we collide with it. It's the right terminology. But what should happen, oh right, I need to go fix that in a moment, is for when I come in contact with it, they make that squawk noise. Now, my mistake, the reason why it did that noise is because I forgot to untick play on awake, and I might want to adjust the volume so it's not quite as loud as that. So just to double check that that works, okay? Like I said, most of my videos are just sitting here watching the hold on bit load up. 45 seconds is the longest, so for that one it wasn't bad. So it didn't actually make the noise straight away, so I can jump to make a noise, come in contact, and it makes two noises when I jump because it hits the thing as well. Now you can also adjust the pitch so it doesn't sound quite so shriekish to bring it down, but that's for you guys to sort out for yourselves.